Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. And I'm telling you, today is a beautiful day. It is October the 18th, 2016, and we have Major League Baseball happening all over the country. Big C up in Canada, and also getting ready to start out in Los Angeles. Right about 5:15 is the first pitch, Big C. And also I want to say thank you to you good old boys for listening to us out in the universe, because Charlton and Big C Sports been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, Big C. That means for all you good old boys out in the galaxy, thank you so much for chiming in. And there's no hanging jads also, Big C. Of course, we are broadcasting live from the iHeart Media Network, the #1 media company in the United States of America. And I want to say bienvenidos to all you good old boys in Latin America, as well as London, England, and Paris, France. Of course, Big C, you good old boys in Canada. I think the Canadians are very happy that they don't have to hear my national anthem, because they're cheering so loud that the Blue Jays are closing out on the Cleveland Indians to get them back in the hunt, Big C. And of course, the good old boys in the United States. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down in your neck of the woods, Big C?
It's going wonderful, Charlton, and those boys up there in Canada, they don't have to
Yeah.
Canada. They went into our home native land.
Yeah.
And by singing it so well, I think that's because the Blue Jays today, Charlton, dominated the Cleveland Indians, because coming in, they were down 0-3.
Yeah.
And they were facing elimination, but they woke up, the bats in Toronto woke up today, and they were hitting the ball all over the park.
Yeah, they definitely were. And that's great for baseball, because that's a great stadium. It used to be called the Sky Dome. Now it's called, I think, Roberts. They have a new corporate...
The Rogers Center. Which is one of the largest cable companies in Canada. As a matter of fact, they just opened up a new hockey arena in Edmonton called the Rogers Center. Also, they closed down Northlands Coliseum, where Wayne Gretzky and the Edmonton Oilers had won 5 NHL championships, Stanley Cup championships, back in the 80s, Charlton.
I tell you what, Big C, when you think about how great baseball is, it's always wonderful when you have it crossing the border, crossing into another country, because it's truly the World Series. And I want to say, speaking of World Series, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, if you've ever seen this show called, I keep thinking about you every time I see a dirty car, Big C, okay? I saw this show called Duck Dynasty, and it reminded me of you and your good old boy friends when you guys took me hunting with you guys. These guys were hunting for alligators, Big C. So, people got to understand that Big C invites you fishing. I thought we were going to fish for perch or catfish. You didn't tell me you good old boys go out to hunt alligators, Big C. That was kind of scary for me.
Think about the parallel of Dynasty and sports.
Yeah.
Now, you think about the patriarch of the guy with the beard.
Yeah.
Ironically, he started in front of Terry Bradshaw at Louisiana Tech at a quarterback position until he got hurt, and that's what propelled Terry Bradshaw, once he had transferred from LSU to Louisiana Tech, to becoming the starting quarterback and overall #1 draft pick in the NFL, I believe, in 1970-71.
Yeah. And
went on to an illustrious career, winning 4 Super Bowls with the great Pittsburgh Steelers franchise of the 70s under Chuck Noll. I mean, you think about the parallels of life and sports and just everyday things. People don't realize how close they line up with each other, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that dynasty, led to a great professional career for Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah, it did. The amazing thing is, too, when we talk about, hunting for alligators, and you guys, a lot of people fish, but the fact that you guys hunt for alligators, Big C, and they didn't have a Cadillac Escalade, Big C, but they had a big pickup truck.
Yeah. If you breathe and wiggle and speak, he ain't got a chance down here. There's always a hot pot of hot feeling waiting on one of them boys. They know when we come along. This is not a friendly meeting.
Yeah, that's funny.
One of them ain't gonna make it, and if I'm still talking,
yeah, that is so funny. When we talk about a real man, you guys really showed me what a real man was, but I do appreciate learning from you guys, Big C. But I also want to say that, isn't it amazing that the guy that got hurt playing football didn't get hurt hunting alligators, Big C? I think that shows how tough you good old boys are down south. And also, speaking of good old boys, just your thoughts on Toronto, what does it mean to Canada? I know they just started the NHL, which hockey's big in Canada. That's kind of like their prodigal sport, Big C. But they have to be crazy about the Blue Jays right now. Whether they come back and win it or not, Big C, it's just exciting to see the fans in Canada come out and support America's game, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, unfortunately for Toronto, Charlton, they were able to take care of the Indians today 5-1. Just a great outing for Toronto. You talk about that stadium at the Sky Dome, which has hosted 2 World Series in the past.
Yeah.
In the early 90s with the Blue Jays. This is the first retractable roof stadium, Charlton, in North America when it opened back in 1989.
Yeah.
Just a marvelous facility. They have a hotel out in center field that has about 42 rooms that look out on into the stadium where the football or baseball. Just a great facility for the fans and the players. But, Toronto, the hopes of all Canada ride on one team. It's not like where we have teams of cities and states here in the United States. This is a countrywide team because it's the only Major League Baseball team left in Canada. But when you think about the following, you got a 50,000 strong in the Sky Dome, and that pitching staff came out today and the Indians and Czechs who have just been dominating, prior to today's game, Charlton. They had only given up 9 runs the entire playoff series that they've been in. Yeah. 9 runs. You think about that over the course of what they've been doing. Just a phenomenal day. But, they met their match today in Toronto. It was great to see them win a game instead of getting swept 4-0.
Yeah, you definitely hate to see teams get swept, but definitely the pitching has been something that everybody can relate to, Big C. So good job for you good old boys up in Canada. Sorry that I messed up your national anthem. Maybe I should mess up their national anthem more often, Big C. They come out and... I wonder if ESPN is going to copy Big C this time when they copy your catfishing skit, Big C. But I wonder if they're going to have Julio Jones trying to catch alligators, Big C, with his bare hands in a rope. That's the funny thing. Yeah, that's so funny, Big C. We do have an abbreviated show today because we all want to pay respect to the LA Dodgers at Chavez Ravine, and I'm sure Vince Scully's going to be in the house, so we want to get on that real quick. And also about tonight's game, Big C, you have the Chicago Cubs, and they're managed by Joe Madden, an excellent manager, Big C. They won more games than anyone in baseball this year. And then Dave Roberts, the new manager for the Dodgers. You think about Madden and then Roberts, how they have the greatest pitchers on both sides. They have the Chapman, the closer for the Cubs, and then the Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw. Do you think it's unreasonable to see Clayton Kershaw at least playing in 2 of the 3 games they may have at home, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, he may get a rest tonight, but the Cubs are going with Jake Arrieta, who last year was the Cy Young Award winner, Charlton. And you think about his last 2 games that he's pitched in Dodger Stadium, he's only given up 2 runs. Think about it, 2 runs. The last game he gave up 2. The game before that, he threw a no-hitter. So when you think about this Cubs pitching staff, he can get it done on any given night. Yes, Clayton Kershaw is a mental edge for the Dodgers and an intimidating factor on opposing teams. Yeah. But Jake Arrieta has the stuff to propel the Cubs tonight to a win, Charlton.
Well, you think of Arrieta, he might feel invincible tonight because the guy has a 1.77 ERA. That's incredible. And then if you look at Madden, I think it's getting to the National League Championship Series, 197 in the 3rd innings pitched, a 3.10 ERA, and that's what Arrieta brings into the season, Big C. I just want to get your thoughts, though. When you talk about Chicago, and so many people in Chicago are afraid of the jinx, but to me it seems like it might be the Dodgers' year, because I just look at the fact that they split in Chicago. If you could split and go home and get 2 games, you go back with a game lead, Big C. And when you have Kershaw that you could use him for Game 7 if it goes that far, it looks like this is a game. It's like the team that wins tonight will most likely win this series because they only have to go 2 more wins, Big C. But the Dodgers coming home and at Chavez Ravine in front of a huge crowd. They attract about 56,000 in Los Angeles for the Dodgers games, Big C. Any momentum swing coming into Los Angeles the way that Kershaw closed out that last game? Would you give the Dodgers the edge even though the Cubs are favored by Las Vegas, Big C?
Well, Coach Charlton, I'm not really sure that I want to give the Dodgers the edge. Because, this is a team that only has 2 players left from the last time they were in the NLCS series, okay?
Yeah.
So when you talk about it, you don't have a club that remembers any of that. And when you look at the general manager and the manager, Charlton, these guys are proven winners. They've come in, Madden's been to the World Series with the Rays.
Yeah.
Epstein's been there with Boston.
Yeah.
They've assembled a team of young players who want to play baseball, Charlton, and that 108 wins during the regular season is no fluke.
Yeah.
But as we've seen with the New England Patriots a couple of years ago when they went 19-0 prior to the Super Bowl, it doesn't mean anything unless you win the championship. So I don't think that they'll be sitting around thinking about a jinx or a curse. Yeah, some young guns there in Chicago. No pun intended.
Yeah. Don't get Donald Trump too happy, Big C. Don't get Donald Trump too happy.
You got guys who have a baseball mentality.
Yeah.
And they come out night after night and they play. They're not going to be affected by that West Coast swing because they're young enough to understand where they are. That swing is just as tough on the Dodgers really coming back to the West Coast from the East playing, Charlton. So they're both working on the same time clock. So, but I gave advantage to the Cubs. Yes, the Dodgers beat them, but Kershaw can't pitch every game, Charlton.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
He pitched every game that the Dodgers have won. He can't pitch every game.
Yeah, well, I believe back in the day there was a time where guys like Satchel Paige, they didn't go out in 6 innings or 7 innings. They pitched until, they could pitch if the game went 12 innings, Big C. They could handle that. Right now, I guess the good old boys pitching right now, the more money they make, the less they're demanding of these guys, Big C. But going back to the Negro Leagues, I just want to ask you about the Negro Leagues. Even though we're talking about the baseball, the NLCS, and the American League Championship Series, Big C, I know when you look about the history of baseball and how the Negro Leagues right now, no one's really going to talk about it. But what do you think it means to the fact that in the Negro Leagues you had so many great players? You do have a minority manager for the Dodgers right now, but does not really talk about the Negro Leagues and paying homage to it. I think baseball could go a long way in trying to bring up the history of all players if they maybe acknowledge more of that during the Championship Series. Big C, your thoughts on that?
Well, you think about it, Charlton, when baseball became America's game, it was from the infusion of the African-American players and the Latin players into Major League.
Yeah.
Baseball has always been around, but it became a very exciting game at that point, Charlton. That's when base stealing became an art, when African-American and Latin players came into Major League Baseball because you brought speed into the game.
Yeah.
And you think about some of the African-American pitchers that they brought in. You got the Dodgers. You got to think about with Bert Campaneris was the best catcher in baseball prior to having an auto accident that paralyzed him. And he was the catcher for the Dodgers during their great run in the late 50s and early 60s. A marvelous player, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you spoke about Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige would pitch a doubleheader.
Yeah.
And he didn't make it to the major leagues until he was 54 years of age. You think about it. He was a dominant pitcher at the age of 54. People think about the great Nolan Ryan, who had to leave the game when he was 43, 44. So Satchel Paige has pitched a decade longer than he had. But it took him so long to get into the major leagues, Charlton. They didn't want to allow him in because he was such a dominant pitcher. He had this hesitation pitch that they now call today the knuckleball.
Yeah.
That nobody could hit. They changed the name of it. They didn't want to call it the hesitation pitch. Let's call it something else because they did not want to pay homage to the great Satchel Paige, the Hall of Famer, who played with the Kansas City Monarchs and several other teams in the Negro Leagues. But you think about the infusion of talent over the years. Barry Dozier played with the Greenland Indians.
Yeah.
They catching with them. So when you think about the teams that are in the NLCS and the ALCS, African-American players had a great thing to do with their history in the 50s and 60s, Charlton, as far as advancing the color barrier in baseball.
Well, Big C, that is excellent knowledge. You won't hear that on ESPN. And also, this segment is sponsored by your California Lottery. What could a buck do for you, Big C? I tell you, Charlton and Big C Sports, I keep feeling like I'm going to win that thing. And I said I'm going to win that lotto, Big C. I know we're going to win it for Charlton and Big C Sports. I even went to church and I had a pastor. That's sweet. Do you make those? You make Rice Krispies to go tempt those alligators, Big C? Is that what they do, Big C? So that gives you the advantage. Now I understand. You're giving away your secrets. You guys get the alligator drunk, and then they're a little bit more tame when you go into the water and grab them. I still don't understand how you good old boys have the moxie and the nerves to get into swampy, muddy water and go grab alligators with a rope in your bare hands, Big C. I don't know if that's the moonshine talking to you or if you guys are just raised that tough, Big C, but I have a lot more respect for you good old boys down south, Big C, and we better have more respect when we win that lotto also, Big C. Your thoughts on winning the lotto tonight, Big C?
Well, the lotto is going to be a great boost for us in our career, John.
Yeah.
It's going to allow us to compete with those boys who've been plagiarizing the ball. You think about it.
Yeah.
You know, the show we do tonight, we're hearing on the ESPN, we're hearing on Fox.
Yeah.
This week is out. You got your local stations out there in the Bay Area, KNBR.
Yeah.
Who's emulating what we do. We get this stuff all across the country, John.
Yeah.
We're not saying we're the originators of anything. It's
Yeah.
just so ironic that the things that we do and have done for the past several months,
Yeah.
that we're hearing it all over. And these people, you got to give them credit for their great research staff, okay?
Yeah, they do.
They found our broadcast.
Well,
they listen to our broadcast.
Well,
they take what we do and they put it on paper, they put it on a monitor and say, hey, follow what these guys do.
Well,
they're drawing fans in left and right.
Yeah, you think about that, Big C. I heard Ted Robinson, he announces the 49ers play-by-play. I met Ted Robinson back in the day when he used to do Cal Berkeley basketball. Actually, when Tony Gonzalez, the great NFL tight end, played for the Cal Bears. But I remember that he was saying that, well, Kaepernick, he really didn't have any more success than what Blaine Gabbert had. In fact, Blaine Gabbert led the league in rushing. And then one of the commentators asked Chip Kelly about that comment. He said, well, actually, there was a sack in the end zone. It was going to be a safety, but Kaepernick, he avoided the safety in the end zone and ran out to about the 29-yard line. He also threw the longest touchdown pass that the 49ers had this year. He also kept the ball in the pocket a lot more. It was a very windy, gusty stadium, Big C, and coming back off of 3 injuries, 3 surgeries, Big C. That's what Chip Kelly's saying to protect the team and let them know that this is the guy we believe in. But it seems like the people that are more upset that the 49ers have Kaepernick is the media. It's the guys they're paying to broadcast these guys. I think it's so crazy, Big C.
Charlton, I'll ask anybody who watched NFL football this past weekend.
Yeah.
Compare Colin Kaepernick's stats versus Aaron Rodgers' stats, okay?
Yeah.
Look at them straight across the board and see whose stats are more dominant or were they equal.
Yeah.
You got to look at that. And Aaron Rodgers, who everybody said is one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL, was very pedestrian against Dak Prescott and
the Cowboys.
So, he didn't put up he put up less points realistically, Charlton, than what Colin Kaepernick did.
Yeah.
But you don't hear the media berating, Aaron Rodgers, and he's right there out of the Bay Area at University of Cal and with the Butte College up there in Northern California. A junior college probably going to Cal. So, when you look at the disparity in the media as far as how they treat people, it's like, you got media people talking about Colin Kaepernick's hair, him walking around with afro.
Yeah.
That, he's signifying who he is as a person. I've never heard anybody in the media speak negative of Aaron Rodgers' teammate Clay Matthews, who is spending more time making commercials now than he is sacking quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, no one's talking about the dwindling career of Clay Matthews or Aaron Rodgers. They're both in a funk, and the Green Bay
Packers
are playing that same way. So, make it fair within the media when you're going to berate a certain player, a certain ethnicity. Do it parallel and even across the board, Charlton.
Well, Big C, I tell you, and this segment is also sponsored by United Labor Life Insurance, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. Also, we are endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. We're looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to put people back to work. So tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports when you're looking to go to work. We also want to help make our economy strong, Big C. And again, we work with all the companies under the AFL-CIO. Let them know that Charlton and Big C sent you. But Big C, I want to get on just a few more things about baseball and what it's done in the Negro Leagues, how it would be a great time for baseball to just honor the work of the African Americans, even though they were so excluded from baseball. I think that goes a long way to tell the movement about Black Lives Matter. We talk about Jackie Robinson, but mainstream society took a lot of pain and interest to keep Black Americans ostracized from participating in this system called capitalism, Big C. Your thoughts on why they should honor the Negro Leagues tonight as we talk about Major League Baseball, Big C? Go right ahead, sir.
It should not just be tonight, Charlton. Every night, when they have the one ceremonial day in baseball where everybody wears the number 42 in honor of Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson, ironically, he's labeled as a trailblazer, Charlton, but he wasn't. He was an economical fix for Major League Baseball is what he was.
Yeah.
And they brought him in to help destroy the Negro Leagues. Last year in Kansas City, they paid a small tribute to the Negro League Hall of Fame, which is in Kansas City, Missouri. But, the Negro Leagues resonate throughout all of baseball. When we think of some of the greatest players in baseball from the mid-50s on,
oh, yeah,
you can make an all-star team, Charlton, of Negro players. You think about Willie Mays, Frank Robinson. These players over the decades, Charlton, Hank Aaron, just resonated as far as what they did in 1971, Charlton.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers emulated the Negro Leagues by starting an all-black lineup in 1971. Every player, including the pitcher, was a black player starting for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they went on to win the World Series that year, Charlton. But nothing is written about it in baseball annals that they made history back in 1971 having an all-African-American lineup, Charlton. So baseball is selfish as far as how they want to treat players of the past and the history of the game. It's almost like many African-Americans didn't play. It's like Blue trying to take Barry Bonds' home run record and tarnish it, saying that, but he never failed the drug test.
Yeah.
But you don't hear the same thing about striking Mark McGrath's record, Pete Rose's records out of history, and many other players, Charlton. But the African-American players have been written about what they have done.
Yeah.
But, you look at players over the years, Charlton, they were hitting 50 home runs, 48 home runs. And the following year after drug testing, they fell off under 30 home runs, Charlton, in the low 20s.
Yeah.
And those players are not written throughout history. They're just left alone. So, if you're going to have fair treatment and equity, do it across the board.
Yeah.
And here it is, baseball, one of the greatest games in America, one of the greatest tactical team sports that you could ever play. And you want to act like African American and even Latin players, Charlton, really have no intricacy in the game. But the ones that play, Charlton, are dominant players. You don't see the bench in Major League Baseball screwing with 10 black players, okay, Charlton?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. If you're on a team, you're playing, period. If you're an African-American player, you may see one on a lineup hitting on the dugout. But everybody else is out in the field, Charlton. So that's an attribute to the talent that they have. And baseball needs to honor that these players are so good, all they do is play.
Yeah.
They don't sit on the bench and watch games for 9 innings.
Well, Big C, I think that's very important because, you have so much education, and I really appreciate it. Not only do you drive a muddy Escalade, but you wrestle alligators. I mean, if I didn't see it with my own eyes, I would not believe it, Big C. Yeah. So I understand why you played pro football for all those years, but you good old boys wrestling the alligators. I'll tell you, I see why the SEC wins a lot of football games. That's part of the training you guys go through. And speaking of training, this segment is also sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. We're also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to help put people back to work. And also this segment is sponsored by Beneath Its Wings Foundations.org and CYNN Entertainment when it comes to promotions. Cynthia Evans, she's the best in Northern California. Also, Big C, as I get you to close out this abbreviated broadcast so we can let people sit down and watch the Dodgers and Cubs games, I just want to mention a few things in hockey since we have a lot of interest in Canada right now, Big C. And we go to the NHL scores on Monday night. We had Colorado 4-3 over Pittsburgh in overtime. It was the New York Rangers 7-4 over San Jose. Detroit 5-1 over Ottawa. And Boston beat Winnipeg 4-1. Today's games, San Jose at the New York Islanders. It is Colorado at Washington, Big C. That should be a great hockey game. We have Anaheim at New Jersey, Arizona at Ottawa, followed by Pittsburgh, the champions from last year with the Stanley Cup. They're at Montreal. Florida at Tampa Bay, Dallas at Nashville, and Los Angeles at Minnesota, followed up by Philadelphia at Chicago, Buffalo at Calgary, Carolina at Edmonton, and St. Louis at Vancouver, Big C. So we know hockey's huge in the great country of Canada, and I promise as I hear more Canadian national anthems, and I can also watch more hockey, Big C, I'll learn to master the national anthem from Canada. So last thoughts on tonight's game, the Dodgers and the Cubs from Chavez Ravine in Los Angeles. Over 56,000 people in the house. You can follow that on Charlton and Big C Sports. Voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Charlton and Big C and those good old boys down south that vote on the iHeart Radio Network. iHeart Media is the #1 company in the United States when it comes to listeners, Big C. Again, your thoughts on closing out the show, talking about baseball, what you're expecting to see at Chavez Ravine tonight, Big C. Go right ahead, sir.
You know, years ago, back in the early 90s, Charlton, they used to call it Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
And that was getting to baseball. Now it's going to be Hunt for Blue October when you think about the number of teams wearing blue in the championship series. You got Toronto, Chicago, and the Dodgers all wearing blue. So, you know, this is going to be a Blue World Series. You know, even Cleveland has a darker shade of it when you think about it from time to time. But, you know, you just think about a game like this and how much it means. And you know, when you get baseball at a peak, at a crescendo, playing at the highest level, and the best players in the game perform each other, you look out there, and the pressure's on you every night.
Yeah.
This is not where you can take the game off, Charlton. Every game means something. And when you think about the job that, you know, Cleveland has done,
oh yeah,
3-1 in their series.
Yeah.
But you look at the Dodgers and the Cubs being tied 1-1, where, you know, when Kershaw went down, no one expected the Dodgers to do anything.
Yeah.
They expected the Dodgers season to be over. But they hung in there, and they caught the Giants, Charlton, and passed them up and won the division.
Yeah.
And now they're playing in the NLCS. You know, this has just been a great sports franchise over the decades since the move to Los Angeles. They've been in multiple World Series and won a few.
Yeah.
But, you know, this has a history. You know, Chavez Ravine, you know, Dodger Stadium is one of the oldest stadiums in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
It's a model stadium.
It's a gorgeous place.
When you think about it, you know, this stadium was built in the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
Out there. So, but the Dodgers have been represented well. They got a great following, great fan base, just like the Cubs do. And this is just one of those series that you want to see. You'd love to see it go 7, but I honestly think that it will end at 6. But, you know, and I want to see the Cubs win it just for the history of the game, Charlton.
Yeah.
I think it means so much to baseball, and as baseball fans, that the Dodgers lose, that no one in LA would be sore, because everyone would appreciate the opportunity seeing the Cubs win a World Series during our lifetime.
Well, Big C, I tell you, there's something about this game that you got to love it, from grandparents taking their kids and from parents taking their kids as well. You have friends and all kind of people. Los Angeles is a melting pot. It's a mecca for entertainment in Hollywood, Big C. You'll probably see a lot of Hollywood stars, too. And that's part of the theme of our show, Mixing Sports in Hollywood. We also throw some politics in there. I still want to encourage everyone, go out and see the documentary 13th. You owe it to your children. You owe it to your grandparents to see it. It's one of the greatest documentaries out there about the prison-industrial complex. I also want to say, every time you want to talk about sports, it's okay to have a difference of opinions, Big C. I love what we do. I appreciate you so much for the knowledge you bring to the show, Big C. And from
it's like a pitcher throwing a changeup.
Yeah.
You know, and you're used to eating fastballs. The changeup is a difference of opinion and a difference of attitude, and that's how sports is. It's a changeup. You're never going to get the same thing play after play, game after game, player after player. So everybody in sports, Charlton, is an individual. You play team sports, but you're individuals, and that's how you got to look at it. And when we have society trying to disgrace individuals for being individuals, no one is coming to your house, knocking on your door, saying how you live or what you do behind closed doors.
Yeah.
These athletes have enough courage and knowledge to put it out there for America to discuss.
Yeah,
not
that's
to
true.
hide from, but to discuss. That shows you the intelligence of these athletes. They're starting something that our politicians should be responsible for.
Isn't that the truth?
But the athletes are taking the leads, while the politicians are being cowards and talking about scandals against each other.
Well, Big C, that is so well said, and I encourage everyone, go look at the documentary 13th. You can see it on Netflix. And also, I want to tell you, this is the time of year where a lot of women deal with domestic violence. There's no room for any violence against women. If you see any woman in trouble, simply call 911. Don't make her deal with it on her own. This is something what we have to do as men and women. Don't make someone go through it on their own, Big C. And I also want to tell you, no matter who you are, there's no discrimination on our program. It's anti-discrimination. If you're doing wrong, we'll call you out. And call us out if we're wrong also. And I love saying that we are the #1 sports show in the universe, Big C, because we'll take you where no man or woman has gone before. And you can follow us every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide on Charlton and Big C Sports. And as we always tell you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.